Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 13.2 Beta 4 has been out for a few days, and I've been using it primarily on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. I've also got it on the iPhone XR that I have here, as well as the iPhone 8 Plus. And so I'm going to talk about how it's been for me on my main phone. Then we'll talk about how it's been for you based off the YouTube community poll. Then we'll look at the poll and then also read some of your comments. So if you'd like to jump to any part of this video, check out the description for the time codes, and then you can just jump to what you want to see. Now, the first thing that I started experiencing yesterday is a touch bug. In fact, I was using YouTube, and this seems to happen in YouTube all the time for me. It happens on my iPad on 13.1.3 also, but sometimes it just won't respond. So I'll go to scroll or something or just move my finger and it doesn't respond. Then I turn the display off, turn it back on, unlock it, and it works fine. You could reboot it, but unlocking it works the exact same way for me. So I've had this bug in this version. I'm thinking about just completely wiping my device to see if that helps, because this has been a long-standing issue, specifically on the iPad for me. Now, as far as any other issues, I really haven't had any issues whatsoever, and I'm happy to report I've had no connectivity issues whatsoever since this last update. So that means all the time when I would go from Wi-Fi to cellular, it's actually working properly now. And it's interesting because I actually reported it in feedback only a couple of weeks ago, and now all of a sudden it seems to work for me. I sent them all the logs on my phone, they actually responded, and then I sent them more information that they asked for, and it seems to be working this time around. So hopefully they're listening and they're seeing that it seems to work now. That switch between Wi-Fi and cellular is working much better for me. Now, as far as this being finalized, I think this is as close as we're going to get to the GM or the Golden Master, because this version has an A in the end of its build number, but also we expect it to come out somewhere around the 30th. So I would expect it to be out around that time, and then we'll be able to install it for everyone. So of course, be sure to check this channel and all other places where I announce that early on Twitter and Instagram as well. Now, as far as battery life for me, battery life has actually been good. I haven't checked it that much because it seems to be up near the top all the time. So you'll see this was yesterday. I only had 2 hours and 49 minutes of screen on time and 2 hours and 33 minutes of screen off time. I didn't use it that much, even though it says I did. Let's go to today, where I've had 2 hours and 2 minutes of screen on time, 32 minutes of screen off time, and I haven't even used a quarter of my battery yet. So it's actually doing really, really well for me. I really don't pay attention to it too much. You'll see again, we're using a little bit over 50% of my battery and 4 hours in 25 minutes of screen on time. So really it's doing quite well. I've had no issues with it as far as battery life, and I'm hearing that from most of you on the YouTube community poll. So most of you are saying that this particular update, battery life is great. There are a few of you saying I wish they'd fix battery life, but most of you are saying it's excellent. Also, many of you and myself are saying that performance is great. Other than that touch bug that I mentioned, I've had zero issues scrolling, no issues whatsoever anywhere, as long as touch is responding, and that was only the last day or so. But really, no issues as far as scrolling. Everything's opening quickly, no issues with the camera. Pops right up, works fine. Everything else is working just as I would expect. And that goes for older devices too. And while someone criticized me for saying the 8 Plus was old, it's a couple years old. It's old by technology standards, I suppose, but it's really a great phone. So I'm not criticizing it. I think it's definitely a phone that you could still buy. And I'll talk about that in the future, but it doesn't feel any slower than the 11 Pro Max when you're doing normal tasks. The number one complaint I'm hearing, other than the battery, is that YouTube and Chrome and Google apps in general are just rebooting every time you go into them. So maybe you open YouTube, wait for it to load, then you go out, go into, say, music, swipe back over, and it reloads every single time. And that seems to be a common theme I'm seeing over and over. And many people are attributing that to RAM management, but it seems that it's not RAM management. It seems that it's just the Google apps for some reason. So if I go through my home feed here, I'll go back out, maybe open music, maybe open Safari, then we'll go to the App Store, then we'll go to weather, and then let's go back to YouTube. And that time it didn't reload. So for some reason, sometimes it reloads, other times it doesn't, but I haven't really had as many issues this beta as I did before. So I definitely think it's closer to finished, and we should see a final version soon. And with that final version comes support for Beats' new Solo Pro headphones with noise cancellation. So you'll have an option to wrong button, noise cancel them in the volume slider here. You'll have a little button to cancel the noise, and that should work. And those aren't out until the 30th, so it makes sense to see that update this coming week. Now, the other thing is what I said is performance on older devices such as an iPad Air 2, maybe an iPhone 6s Plus. I need to install it again on some of those devices. I actually have it on the 6s Plus, but I don't have it here where I'm actually filming this. So scrolling, though, actually performs the same when I'm using that. The only time you're going to really notice a difference is when you go ahead and load a game, maybe Minecraft or something else, Fortnite, one of those. It actually will be a little bit slower just to load. But once you're in the game, it's really not an issue for most people. So it's nice and fast, and it's going to be fast on an 8 Plus. It's not that old, but you get the idea. I think it's just, in general, for most people, you'll actually see that performance is great. And there, as soon as I set it down, it's done loading. So performance in general seems fine on all of the devices. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of people say this is the best beta yet and the best version of iOS 13 yet. But let's take a look at the YouTube community poll. Now, 9.9K of you voted, which I really appreciate. That means we've got a lot of information and a good idea of how it's going for all of you. And you'll see 21% of you said it was great, 3% said terrible, 6% said okay but some bugs, 58% of you said you're on the public version, 13.1.3, and 12% of you said you're on Android. So I really appreciate you voting, even though this doesn't necessarily pertain to you. Now, there's 155 comments, and I've read every single one of them up to the making of this video, so let me go ahead and sort these and talk about some of these comments. So the first one is, way better. My battery isn't draining anymore. I wish I knew what device that was on, though. Performance and battery are great. Smooth sailing. iPhone 11 Pro Max. I'm on iOS 13.2 Beta 4 on my iPad 5th Gen. It's been nice so far, but on my iPhone XR, I'm on iOS 13.1.3 since I want the official version on my phone instead. I have iPhone 11 and it's good battery and performance. On my iPhone 11 Pro Max, I haven't had one single issue. I think this is ready for the world to download. iPhone 7 Plus, it's been great so far. So I did read this comment. This is someone asking how to downgrade. I've shown how to downgrade to iOS 12 before. You can't downgrade to iOS 12 anymore, but it's the same process. You have to use iTunes in order to downgrade. iPhone XS, 11 Pro, iPad Pro here. Surprisingly bad for a late release build. Seeing crashes in several apps. There haven't been many issues on my 7 Plus, but there have been a couple of app crashes, a couple times that the iPhone stopped responding, and the RAM management is still bad. My battery has been draining unusually fast in betas 3 and 4, 2.5 hours max, and the A10 gets unusually hot. There's definitely something going on in the background causing that drain. Because it's getting warm, it's processing something as well. iPhone 7, it's perfectly good. Great so far on my iPhone 8. I have only one issue, and that is the Mail app crashing a lot. Also, can you do a review on the new iPhone 12 rumors? I don't generally cover rumors until we have more significant information. We really want to see some prototypes and things like that. I had to downgrade to iOS 13.1.3 due to the fact that iOS 13.2 Beta 4 still hasn't fixed the battery drain issue. I don't know what's happening. I think you have some sort of app that's causing that. Generally, you'll see a lot of people are saying it's quite good, and there's probably something there. Just make sure you go through your apps and see what's going on. Wi-Fi and cellular speed are increased by at least 10%. Very good. Hey Aaron, on iPhone 11 Pro Max, everything seems fine, but YouTube and Chrome still having to refresh constantly. That's like I mentioned before. The Google apps seem to do that more often than others. So I did respond to this one. You'll see still on iOS 12 because it has 3D touch. So does iOS 13. It's there, it just responds differently. iPhone 11 Pro Max on iOS 13.2 Beta 4. Battery life is good. Can't speak for others. Performance is also good. But again, can't speak for others. So far, this new beta has been fantastic. The speed and performance is great, and I have not been getting as many crashes. My battery life has also been much better in my iPhone XR. So far, this is the best beta yet. Can't wait for the final release. Thanks, you really help a lot. Thanks, I appreciate that. Since Apple released iOS 13 and my iPhone 6s Plus performance has been going downhill until I updated to iOS 13.1.3. It went right into the restart loop and never recovered. I regret updating my device to iOS 13. I think that Apple are intentionally slowing down. They're not slowing it down. There's actually replacement programs for some issues that the 6s Plus has been having for power failures and component failures. So I'll link that in the description so you can check it out, and hopefully yours falls under those serial numbers and they'll fix it for free. I have 13.2 Beta 4 installed on my 10 and 11 Pro Max and have major bugs on both, too many to count. Make sure you report those bugs in the feedback app as well. iPhone 7 Plus, flawless performance. Battery life has improved a lot as I'm getting approximately 6 hours of screen on time. Of course, you can get even more than that. Bugs like YouTube reloading, Amazon app reloading is still present. Overall, very stable. Been great on my iPhone 6s. Haven't had any problems so far. I've had great battery and Wi-Fi cellular connectivity. And then you'll see here's someone after this. Battery life is abysmal. iPhone 11 Pro Max here getting 3 hours of screen on time max. Again, there has got to be something using your processor to really crush the battery that quickly. So make sure you check through those apps because there's definitely something going on. That cellular issue has been fixed, and I'm glad no reduction in speed, also seamlessly smooth. I do believe iOS 13.2 is actually the perfect build thus far for my iPhone 11 Pro Max. It has all features made for the new models, however, the RAM management is something Apple might want to look into again, or perhaps the app developers. It reloaded too often as compared to iOS 12 and before. I'm wondering if that has to do with some sort of security thing they're implementing as well. It's hard to say because we're seeing it more and more. It's been alright on my iPhone XS Max. Since I travel a lot around my town and state, I need maps to take me to a location without me typing it in while I'm driving. It says it needs location services turned, and it is, but it won't work. Still tells me I need it on. Other than that, it's been great. I don't know if it's a bug or a fault of iPad OS, but I was working on a couple of Google Docs pages, and I accidentally hit full screen mode, and I need an escape key to get out of it. Now every time I click on those docs, it's in full screen mode, and I have no way of getting out of it due to lack of escape key. The escape key on an iPad is just pinch. It should shrink it back down. Did not notice much on iOS 13.2 latest beta, but I see significant battery backup improvement in my Series 4 LTE latest watch 6.1 beta. I've been hearing battery life on the watch is fine too, as long as you have a Series 4. Series 5 doesn't have amazing battery life. So that's it for iOS 13.2 Beta 4. Let me know how it's going for you in the comments below. Do you think we'll see some new products this week? It's rumored that we're going to see, well, we know we're going to see those Beats headphones, but we may see new AirPods 3 or AirPods Pro, whatever they're called, and we probably should see the Mac Pro go for sale. So maybe we'll have some other things as well introduced this week. We don't really know, but let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course I'll link it in the description as I always do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.